Morning, everyone. So, is there any doubts in that website syllabus? So, what we have said seen in last class website. Shall we move on to next thing? Okay. So, hope you are all clear with the email processing and all. We are today we are going to talk about CGA script. What is CGA script? Okay. So, CGA is nothing but it's a short form of Common Gateway Interface. So, we'll see what it's going to do. So, it's going to create an interface between your front end and back end. So with the help of that, because so we won't be able to execute a Python from a front end. Let's see what is happening. Showcase data. So this is how CGA script actually works. So if you are sending some request from browser, so this is a normal any like any of your HTTP request how it's working. But in a CGA, there is an interface between your HTTP server and a database. So CGA is going to interface both HTTP server and database. So if you're giving some request in a browser, so it will be translated. It will be translated request. It will transmit into that HTTP server. So HTTP server is nothing but your machine. In that machine, there is a small piece of program that is called CGA program. It's going to create an interface between your server request with the database. Because if you want to access a database from a front end request, so in the last class we have seen uh, database, sorry, a website with Python, right? So there we have using some a framework called Django. So Django will take care of it. So there is a no CGA program because we are handling with a number of packages like database connectivity, and so we are initiating a connection between a database and a backend, and we are using a request module. So the request module will take care of that request from a front end, that is HTTP servers. Okay, and then we are using a certain models to do communication between your front end, back end, and a database. But we can achieve that same stuff with the help of a small script that is called a CGA program. So it is nothing but executing your Python program from a front end. But by default, it is not possible, right? So what is the required to execute your Python program? So what is the requirement to execute your Python program? It's a
With the
basic.
Python interpreter.
Exactly. We need a Python interpreter. So we won't able to execute a Python script through browser, right? Because browser is made up of HTML, JavaScript, CSS kind of stuff. So it is not made for Python. So when you try to view that Python file, what happened? It will simply view your Python script. That's it. Okay. And CJ is an interface. What happened? We can execute a program in interactively through the web browser. So with our client is actually running in a browser. That it's nothing but your script, and this will create an interface between your server and your browser request. Let's see what is do and so how it's working and how to do that. Okay. So we have to do the certain step for that to implement a CJ script. So we need a server for that because we aren't having that interpreter, right? You all know that. So we don't have a we need interpreter to execute a Python file. But in terms of, so anyway, if you want to execute a Python file, we should need Python interpreter. So if you try to use that same stuff in a browser, the program will never execute it. So you all clear with it, right? So see that this is my Python program. I'm going to run through my browser. Let's see what's going to happen. So in a browser, I'm running this program. See what is happening. It is simply printing your program. That's it, right? You will simply print your program as it is. This is not a CG. I'm just showcasing when you try to view your when you know how to execute a Python program using Python slash. But if you copy that path and if you paste it in an address bar in a browser, means what happens? It will simply open your file because Python is again a text file. So you will simply open your file. That's it. Okay. Now I'm going to execute the same thing in another browser. See that same file name. See the same program, but here it is actually running. Understand? But it is a Python program. Got what I'm saying? So what happened? The program was interpreted by Python, and you got some results, right? So when your script executed, you got some result. That is what the bytecodes. The bytecode will be translated into front end. That's it, with the help of CGA script. Okay. So for that, what is the requirement? So here we need a server. Anything you can use any server. So I'm using Apache server. So once you install Apache server, so obviously we need an Apache. Once you install the Apache server, you will get a folder called CGA bin in certain folder. So where you're actually installed. So in a Linux, I will get it. I will get that CGA bin folder in user lib CGA bin. Understand? So if you're using Windows, you will find that same folder under Apache slash something. So like where you're using like a C program files, Apache, etc. Okay. So for me, it is located here. Okay. So what to do? You need to go to that folder first. Okay. So you need to keep your file inside. Okay. And you need to maintain certain step. So I've detail created that step. So what to do and how to do that. So you need to do some setting permission at all. Okay, so if you are using a window, sorry, CentOS and all. Okay, so you need to add this line. So you need to tell CGI I want to execute Python extension. So you have to add this file. So then only CGI will understand this. So you will find that script under HTTP. So the configuration. So if you install Apache, you will find this. So you will find that file called httpd.config under Apache folder, and you will find some file like this, and there you need to add these two lines. That's it. So once you add it, so next thing is what you need to give a permission. So it will start to accept your Python files, the extension. Got it?
So this line will be same for any server, like Nginx also.
Nginx, you have to do the configuration with this, the HTTP files, the config files. Okay, so you need that directory CG bins. The setting might differ, the file might differ. The step will be same. Okay. So and then once you're done with it, you need to restart that Apache server. So in Windows, I think it is in single click. So you have to kill that from a task manager and rerun it. But in shell script, we can do this by restarting the server. That's it. Okay. So this is the way to do the one time. It's a one-time configuration. Once you're done with it, next time you need to go with your. So I have did this program. Sorry, I did this file. I will share with you in the drive so you can access any. So in case if you are into CGA development, you can go through this file. Okay. So remember, you need to do that configuration one time. So that depends upon the server which you're using, Apache or Nginx, etc. So once you're done with it, open that file. Okay. So you know what a browser will understand. The browser will understand a language called what?
HTML.
HTML, the hypertext markup language. So no matter if you are using a Python, anyway Python is supposed to return your HTML. Got it? So you need to return an HTML because if you return a Python object, website doesn't understand that because website only understands HTML because it is made up of HTML only, so not for a Python. So with the help of Python, what we can do? So we can prepare dynamic HTML. That's it. Like we in a like in yesterday Django I have shown you that, and in a mail also. So what is the purpose of mail? To send an automate dynamic mail. So it's supposed to send to various people based upon the data from a database, right? So we can use Python to do to prepare a dynamic HTML scripts. So once you're done with it, you need to bind that HTML and you need to throw it back. Okay. So CGA will receive that HTML and throw it back to browser. Got it? Now in a file. So this is my file. So June 23. I'm going to edit this. Okay. See that first line should be what? It's a command. Okay. This command decides which interpreter you need to use. So here I'm saying Python 3. When I say Python, what happens? Sorry. So this is Python. This is Python 2 also, it will work, no problem. When I will convert this to space this. So what happens?
Error,
Why?
syntax error. Python 2, Python 3
Yes,
need
exactly.
brackets for.
Yeah, exactly. Because print will be considered as a statement in Python 2. Got it? So in Python 3, it is a function. So it won't take this. So it won't take this syntax. This is like a statement, print statement. But Python 3 is print function. Got it? So that is the difference. So you need to define an interpreted location with the help of magic command #hi exclamatory symbol space your Python interpreter location. So CGI script will take Python interpreter path, that is called Python path, from this command. Understand? And followed by you need to use a print statement to print your HTML scripts. So it starts with a content type. This is a must. So you need to say which content type. So this is related to web browser. So you need to tell whenever you're passing certain data always. So you have to tell them it is a content type is text HTML. So yesterday I have used a Django. In Django, I will throw that JSON, right? JSON, I have to say content type application JSON kind of. So you need to tell the browser which type you are actually passing. If you are saying XML, say text.xml kind of. Okay. So if even if you're testing an API, you need to tell them, so this is belongs to application JSON, HTML, etc. So that is, so you need to tell that content, that is called content type, which content you're actually passing into it. So based on that, it will try to parse your content. That's it. Okay. So this is must, and the rest will be same, your normal HTML script. That's it. Okay. So here I can modify anything I want. So you know how to change this. So we can use a format to change. So in here I'm saying application slash JSON, that is content type. So because I'm passing a JSON structures, a JSON structure. So it depends upon which data type you are passing. So if I'm passing HTML, I need to say content type is HTML. Okay. So based on that header files only, browser will understand, oh, this data is belongs to this category kind of. Okay. So that is what we have to say. So you need to tell them, so this is belongs to this type. Otherwise, it will be considered as a string. So it will print as it is. Got it? Now, so here I'm adding a text, like I'm having a marker and all. That's right. The text is actually scrolling. Okay. So when you made a change, just refresh your page. So it will start effect. So I understand this.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
But when we use Django, this CGI programming is not required, right?
Pardon?
When we use Django, this is
So
not
we don't
required,
need.
right?
Yeah, no. So this is about your, if you want to run your simple Python program in a front end, one line, you can call it as a one line. So you want to throw some HTML with from Python, so we can go with CGI. Otherwise, if you are building a big scale application, obviously you have to go with Django, Flask, etc. The setting frameworks. Got it?
Yes, sir.
So here, even it is a simple program, I can integrate database, right? Because what I need, we already implemented database connectivity in says 2 days back. So what is that? DBcon. Okay, so I established the MySQL, so I can fetch the data, and here I got the some Python structure like a dictionary, list of dictionaries. I can throw it back to the front end, so we can frame a table. In table, we can showcase it. Got it? Let me try.
Yes, sir.
I have not tried, so if you want, I will try that. So what I'm getting. So I need to keep this file into. So for Apache, the group is this one. So this is what we created for Apache. So let's take that. Or the permission is 755. Yes, it is. It changed. Okay. So now what to do? Um, so this won't work, right? We don't give you data, right? Because I'm using name equal to main. So while I'm importing, nothing happens, right? Nothing happens. So what to do? D dot move data. Need to say db dot read. So just print it. So you get it. Got it? To return. Now we have to prepare a table. So how to get headers? How to get headers? How to get headers? Yes. Yes. Hi. So yes, we done with it. See. Yeah, we can use it directly, so we don't need this. We don't need to frame a dictionary to fall back. So because we already having that, so we'll keep that header in working. We'll get a value. It was created. Somewhere I made mistake, that's why I'm getting that. I already had TBL data. I can use this. So this is again a list. So it is a list format. So you can simply iterate it. Yes. Got it. Now we can add the table borders to design. We can design it. So So we have to add the same for got it. So actually I fetch data from a database. I'm showcasing in a front end. Is that simple then, Django? Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I've never tried today. Only I'm trying this. Okay. So we can do anything we want to. So make use of it. Yeah. Shall we move on to the next topic?
Yes, sir.
So any doubts in CG script? I'm just using simple Python. That's it. Okay. I'm just making HTML. Doing that. That's it. So if I disable it, won't work. Got it? So you have to know that IP. This is belongs to Apache. I told you right. You need a host and port, right? So here I have not. I had not written any port. Why? Any cases? If you don't mean what happens, it will take
Default port.
default port. So default port for machine is what? 80. So Apache using 80. So both are same. So see that 80 is translated back to null. That's it, because that is a default. Apache using a default port. Got it? That's it. Okay. So we'll move on to next thing. So you
Bro,
can add yes.
what are the codes in print that only will be executed in a browser, right?
Yes.
The for loop.
Inside a print, we have to keep HTML tags, HTML
Okay.
elements. So even in for loop, see, I'm generating HTML. See that. So I'm printing this, right? I'm preparing HTML tables.
Okay.
It will look like this. In front end, this will, so see that in a front end, if I see the code, you will easily notify it. See the table, you will find the same code, ditto code, the exact code, what I have written in it. See, is there right?
Yeah.
The same code, same table code. Got it?
Okay.
Okay. So let's move on to next thing. So actually, as I said, I will talk about Socket. So Socket is what? It's a communication protocol. So we can initiate a bidirectional communication between two server client. We can establish a bidirectional server client communication between two channels. So it can be between a machine, between a process, within a process, kind of. So within a process, in the sense, so we have already seen such thing like in where the pipe. We have seen that, right? So similar things. Okay. So that is what. So we can able to establish a bidirectional communication. Okay. In pipe, it's a one way. So we have to send from write and a read will receive it, but this is a bidirectional. So we can create so peer-to-peer communication, but that is a one directional. So this is bidirectional socket. Okay. So to implement that, we need a package called socket. So I've created things. Yeah. Okay. So you need to import that, and you need to establish that a socket instance, and then this is nothing a tuple. A tuple contains a host and port. That's it, right? You all know that. And I need to bind it address. So we have seen such thing in HTML email stuff similar. So you need to bind that IP address along with your port. Got it? So into your socket. Or else, if you don't know that, just go to the documentation. Import socket. Just say socket. Say help socket. So this is what. So you have to go to concatenation. So sorry, the constructor. So here we don't have anything, and inside that, once you instantiate it, you need bind. In a bind, you need to pass address. The address should be what? Address should be tuple. The tuple contains IP, protocol, So that is the port number, etc. Got it? So they said it should be a pair of host and port. It should be a tuple inside. We need a host and port. So you need to bind that. Once bind it, we can start using it. So this is the second command, very second command after this. So and then we need to create a listen. So listen is actually listening for a peer-to-peer communication. So if someone is hitting your machine, so this will actually telling that. And then once done, okay. So I'm saying while true because we want to make infinity chat. So I'm saying while true. That's it. So here this will actually this model will accept connection from client. Got it? So when someone hit that, and you will receive the address who actually did it. So this is something similar to if you are in a chat room and if someone is asking you to chat with you, you will get chat name, right? So who are actually want to talk with you. That is what it is. So this is a request who actually made it. So you will receive that address. So you will easily notify whom actually trying to contact you. Got it? And you can say your name and you can send it back to them to welcome. That's it. Okay. So I will run this. Okay. So this is actually started for listening, and I need to. So I need to hit that IP, so we'll get it. So from another terminal, I'm going to say telnet space the IP address 127.0.1, the port so which I'm using it. See, so I'm actually establishing a connection. So immediately it will receive a connection. Say you got connected from this IP and this port. So this is actually connected from this. Got it? So I'm just explaining from my own machine. So if you are in a network, you will easily identify so whom you are actually talking about. Kind of okay. So you need to establish, and someone is trying to hit you, you will get it. So here you will get that. Welcome Credo, the response message. Understand? So this is establishing the communication between process within a process, in outside process, or between a machines. Got it? This is shortcut programming. So or else you can split with a client server communication kind of. So we need to run a server in one end, client in another end. Got it? That too fine. So I will disconnect this. Server. So server is actually waiting for client. So here I'm going to run my client. See, so what I'm doing, I'm just receiving some message. So what actually is server sent? So where is the server? So here's my server program. So here what I'm saying, if got connection, immediately send a welcome message with your the client address. Welcome. I'm saying welcome this guest kind of. Okay. Immediately I'm sending once I got connected. So actually this is actually waiting for a connection. So here I'm in this line. I'm waiting for a connection. So I'm not yet connected yet. So I'm actually waiting it. So once I run this program, what happened? The client is also running, right? You see, the client is running. I got it. I got a connection from this, and I'm sending that welcome message back to them. This is how I split it into server client also. So or else you can keep it in the same file also. So this is socket programming. Okay, and this is not so simple. So if it is developing a small thing, this is fine, and you will need to know a lot from socket when you're using a chat server kind of things. Okay, so relate with these concepts once you are into chat server system. Okay, so we'll move on to our next topic. So before moving on, just a quick go through about Jython, what is Jython, etc. So Jython is a library which help us to run Python program in Java virtual machine. That is, what is the requirement for what is the requirement to run your program in a Java? So Java, in to execute your program in Java, we need a bytecode, right? So whatever you written. So say for example, um, I have program say Java compiler created hello world program. Okay, so this is a program, that's it. Okay, I need to compile it. This will actually provide a bytecode. So once you got a bytecode, you need to run it through Java virtual machine. You have to say that a class name payoff. That's it. Okay, so I need to execute the file. Once you compile, you will get a bytecode. So the bytecode will look like this. It's like dot class. Okay, this is a bytecode as like a Python compiler, POC. Okay, so with the help of Jython, you can run Python bytecodes in a Java virtual machine. So that is advantage of Python. So that is a Python give you a possibility to explore. So execute a code in various environment. Got it? So for C, we have extension called C Python. For C sharp, we have IronPython. A lot is there. So IronPython is there, and Real Python is there. Okay. So each and every extension will help us to execute your Python compile bytecodes in a various compiler. So this is about that the concept. So what is Jython and all? So Jython will help us to execute your Python bytecodes in a Java virtual machine. So you don't need to compile because Java virtual machine needed Java bytecodes. So if you run, so if it's actually require a bytecode. When you execute a Python, you will get a Python bytecode, so you can run that through Java Jython. So Jython will convert that Python bytecode into Java bytecode. Got it? So in advanced topic, we are going to talk about, so we already seen what is Unicode text and binary data, right? So that is started denoted by what? Denoted by Unicode, and also it is like U looks like this. It starts with U, R means a raw string, and bytes, for bytes it should be start with B string kind of. This is about that. To differentiate, by default we have defined like this. It's a basic string. It's normal string. Got it? So when you say that, when you don't denote that this with this, we will convert it back to Unicode. Unicode in the sense what? So like the new, like the rupee symbol is there, the etc. The very symbol we are using, right? So we can include that too into a string like as like a slash n. How slash n is, the slash n will be parsed by default string, but if you have more some weird codes like a slash x e kind of, this won't be passed by default. Okay, this will be passed by Unicode. So you need to define with Unicode, and I need to keep the exact one. So I know I forgot that what it is. So we need the exact Unicode to parse. So yeah, it is a 2-digit, 0 to 2. Got it? So this will be take considered as a Unicode. So you need to say Unicode. So this will be translated back to exact Unicode representation for your string. Okay, so this is a way to define your Unicode or a raw string or a bytes, etc.
Bro, what is Unicode?
Pardon?
What is Unicode?
So that is what I'm saying. Unicode in the sense, like you are using a rupee symbol, right?
Hmm.
Like that. So you won't be able to keep that Unicode string. Even in a HTML, I'll show you that normal example. Or HTML. So each identifies some certain, see that like a Latin, Greek, etc. These kind of, right? So you won't be able to use it directly in your strings. So what happens? This will say that like a box kind of stuff. So you won't be able to see that. For that, you need to decode from Unicode. So they are actually made up of Unicode with some certain digits. So like a 0 to 2 digit, that is what it shows. You have to encode, and if you want to show that, you need to decode it. I'm checking for Unicode. Yes. I'm looking for a better example for predefined Unicode. Looking for a predefined Unicode. Let's see what it is. Let's try it. So here actually this is actually notating some Unicode characters. Let's see what it is. Yeah, this is representing this. Got it? So to keep it inside, you need to encode it, and we have to decode it back. So this is Unicode actually. So we won't be able to keep this exactly in your script like this. Okay, it will look like this. You won't be able to find that. So when you say something like that, what happened? This is called Unicode for this. This is called
Okay.
Unicode for this kind of, okay, because this is not a normal text, right? So
Hmm.
this is the Unicode representation for that. Decode kind of. This will look like this. So when you throw it back, so you will got up the exact one. You have to parse it from that. Okay.
Then what is that UTF-8? That one.
UTF.
UTF.
So this is a standard. So which byte it is? Whether it's a 8 bit or 16 bit. So it has some certain category. The Unicode format, text format. So it is varies from 8, 16 kind of. So this character belongs to this. Some characters belongs to a 16 kind of.
Okay. Okay.
So UTF-8 is there, UTF-16 is there. A lot of the variants is there.
Not every database supports Unicode. So that is the reason why we have this Unicode. Certain database only support standard formats.
Yeah, MySQL I think supports the UTF-8. So we can use this in MySQL. So this is what I know. So there we can use that, or we need to change that Unicode, whether it is 8 or 16, or we have to change that format to PDOS character engine, Unicode character engine. So probably we'll using that text or a blob to store those kind of data, text field or a blobs. So shall we move on to next, or any doubts in Unicode?
Okay.
So next thing is managed attributes. So managed attributes, I told you already what is managed attributes. What is managed attributes? So you all know the class doesn't contain anything. I want to add into it. What to do? The only way is to modify this class, right? Correct? Without modifying your class, still we can add a class attribute. That is called managing, add, delete, change, etc. We can do a lot in it. That is called managed attributes. So we have 4 things: set, delete, get, and hash ADTR. Okay. So if you want to add something, create a method or anything outside, feed it back. Or if you are having something in a different class, let's say so I need the same stuff into class A. Just say set ADTR. Okay, set ADTR. First is object, and there is a class name. Next should be string. So what is that method name should be? So it should be some in a string, and the next thing is this b dot sum. Got it? Now I'm going to check that. We got a sum inside. So instantiate, start using it. I think it is derived from B, so it should look like that. So probably what to do, so you have to keep it outside. Keep it outside and add it into it. Sum is yours and say sum. Got it? So let's say D here. You will find that dot sum. Oh, I made a mistake. Okay. Where I made a mistake? Why it says an error? What is the error? What is the error? What is the error?
We haven't declared that.
A, B in the class instance, right? So because I'm saying self.a, self.b, so I should not do that. If I remove, now I have modified my, and again I will set it back. I need to set once again. Let's check. Yeah, I got now. Got it? This is set ADTR. What happened? So without touching your class, we can keep expanding it. So this is not a constructor. So don't confuse with constructor. Constructor is different. Constructor create object in runtime instance. So it will be temporary. It will alive until the instance was exist. If we change the something else, what happens? Again the object will differ. But here it is not. So here once you set, it will be there until that session was alive. Not just for an instance. This is not just for instance. This is about the session, the complete process. Got it? This is set ADTR. Okay. So delete means I'm checking whether it is there. Has ADTR, the class, I'm checking whether sum is there without getting an error, right? Because when I say a dot sum, it is there. It's for, no problem. So when I say a dot a, is it there? No, right? What happened? I won't be able to use it in a if condition. So what happened? This will raise an error. At what is the error?
Attribute error.
Attribute error. So it says attribute error. So I have to say as ADTR to find a. Okay, it will return whether it is a true or false. That's it. Got it? So similarly, get. Why we need a get? Why we need a get? Has is for if condition sake. Whether it is there, then do something. Otherwise, create one kind of. For that, we can use has. Check whether your class object, the given object, whether it is there in that class or not, to find it out. Okay. What might be get ADTR?
To get that attribute from a class.
Get attribute value. What is actually it's referring the referred value without getting an error, right? So when I say a dot a, we don't have anything called a, so it says an error. When I say a dot sum, it is there, so it's written the class, the function, right? So with the help of get ADTR, we will proceed without getting an error. Just say class a. If it is not there, you return. Says just say none. Got it? The third option. So it is something look like a dictionary. In dictionary, we have dot get method, right? So we can use directly like saying, so A of B. If it is exists, you will get some results. If it is not, what happened? If it is not, what happened? It will leads to this line leads to what is missing? What it is? How to trace back error? Let's find out what it is. This is what C is what?
It is a key.
Key. Is keys exist?
No.
What happened then?
Key error.
Key error. That's it. Got it? So without getting an error, what to do? A dot get. Pass C and say none. If it is not exist, it will return none. Similarly, in a class object, if you want to say, if we say a dot a, what happened? If it is not exist, it will say an error. Instead, just say get ADTR, a class object which you want to, so the class and the class object which you want to parse, and this is a return value. If it is not exist, if it is exist, the sum is exist means you will get the corresponding one. Got it? This is get. How about set? And a value which you want to set into it. I'm saying 10. The value was set. Just say a dot a. You got it. Got it? So without touching the class, we can add anything we want to do. This is get, set, delete. So delete means to delete from that. I'm deleting a. It was deleted. Now it says attribute. Understand?
But once we set an attribute, can we access that attribute using normal?
Yes, normally, without construction, without instantiation.
Okay.
This will add into directly into your class. But until the session alive, once the session clear, what happened? The class will fall back to normal.
Okay.
So, but constructor will be there until the instance exists. But this is about session, the complete process, the complete program runs. Understand? From where you are initiating it. So the where you are enter this line, So from that line till the end, it will be there until the process is terminated. Okay. So this is called a managed attributes. Okay. So next thing is what? Decorators. So decorator is what? So decorator is a concept. Okay. So it is denoted by a symbol. And do you want me to continue? It's a few more topics. I left it out. And if you want a time, I will give you a time so we can see it on Monday, or I can complete today. So your choice is yours. What to do? If you feel difficult to understand, we can continue on Monday.
Can you do it on Monday, please?
Yeah. So you will understand decorators because the decorator is one of the important concept. So this is something similar to super class. So we'll see it on Monday. So till that, please practice what we did, like intent scripting and managing attributes. Okay. So decorators, I don't want to rush it out, so you won't understand because it's an important concept. We'll check it out. Okay. So we'll see what is decorator. So it is denoted by like this. So I'll demonstrate the basic stuff. Okay. So when I say a dot sum, what happened? This will lead to an error, right? Why? What might be the error?
A is not instantiated.
Without instantiation, self won't receive any inputs, right?
Yes.
So you got type error. It doesn't contain the first argument. Nothing instead. Got it? To avoid that, so I told you, so you can use a function instead of method also. We will talk about this later. That is what it is. See, I'm going to say static method. Static in the sense, this will, the method will be considered as a function. You don't need to define self. Let's say dot sum. This works. I can use a function instead of a method, but we need to use a decorator. This is called decorator. We'll explain you how it is working. So what to do? You need to omit that. So without decorator, what happened? This will lead to an error. What is the error? So here it says one argument is required, but nothing instead. So here what says? Function takes one argument. Sorry, function takes no argument but zero given. So here nothing given, but it takes one argument. But here it takes zero argument but one given. The invert error. Got it? So here, see you. Sorry, I have to pause anyway. So so when you instantiate, when you instantiating a class, you're actually passing something inside, but you are not receiving anything. Some takes no argument but one given. The inverse error. Got it? When you instantiate, it looks fine, but what happened? You are not receiving anything. You are not using any parameter to receive that class instance, right? To avoid that, so you might thought this is a normal function, but normal function won't work with a class because class is looking for a method instead, right? For a method, we need at least one argument. We all know that. To extend that, we need to add a decorator. We'll explain you in detail what is decorator and how to create your own decorator. So this is a static decorator. We'll talk about custom decorator also in Monday. Okay. So in meantime, please do practice these things. Let me know if you have any doubts. Okay. So thank you so much for today's session.
Thank you.
We'll see you on Monday. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.